Hello and welcome back to the Dicebreaker podcast. It's episode 56. Lolies, I assume you have a number-related factoid.
Yeah, I'm very confused by it. 56.
Your enthusiasm dropped so quickly there. Like, yeah.
Well, it's 56. Was she worth it?
What?
That
sounds dubious.
It doesn't rhyme, and I can only assume it's problematic.
I'm having a look to see what the meaning is, but in the meantime, go on with the instruction.
Fantastic. Well, I'm Matt Jarvis. I'm the editor-in-chief of Dicebreaker. I am here once more with two of the team, and also a very special guest. Nicola, do you mind introducing yourself to the folks at home? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So I'm Nicola, lovely to meet you all, and great to be here. So I run Game Plan Life Coaching, which is a life coaching business, but also games and play workshop for people looking to engage with their inner play and to live life on their terms. So I just use games and play and what I believe in to bring the best out in people, either one-on-one or in group.
Excellent stuff. Thanks very much for joining us. It's good to have you here. And of course we have Alex Meehan returning once more. How are you doing?
I'm like a bad smell. I never go.
Just have to let it
I never said
linger.
such a thing. I just said you're here. Hello, welcome. And you were like, yes, I'm like a bad smell.
Yeah.
Somebody had to say it.
It's better if I say it, because then it's less inside.
Yeah.
I can't smell you through the camera, so I'm okay.
I can't smell at all. So
Yeah, I think we can't
We're all
either, but
same.
we were around it for long enough that we remember.
Also here, of course, Alex Lolies.
Hi. In the meantime, I've
Local-
looked up the meaning, by the way.
Local meanie, Alex.
Local bully. So the explanation of this is no better than what it sounds. Was she
boy.
worth it refers to the cost of a marriage license, which back in the 1950s would set you back 5 shillings and a sixpence.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that checks out being
Yeah.
from the 50s and just being like, that doesn't
Was
hold up
she
today.
worth
It
it?
didn't really hold up then, but
Yeah, when marriage is like acquiring a new Hoover or something that just that gives you problems and might serve a purpose. Or
Do you mean
some
vacuum
sort of
cleaner? Because Hoover is a licensed brand. Right?
Are you doing well actually?
Well,
should we talk about board games? Like that thing that we're here to do each week?
No, we're talking about appliances.
That's not the bit that I'm concerned about.
Oh, hold on. I'm not going to be here next week, so I do want to just quickly say what next week's one's going to be, because I
load
know
'em
that
up.
Meehan's going to like this one. I feel
Well,
like.
I can't wait.
What
50
dated
will make-
stereotype do we have in
It will-
mind this time?
It will make up for all the mean things. Go, do it.
57 Heinz varieties.
Okay, fine. Sure.
I'm so confused.
Because you like beans.
That's...
Oh, what? Because I smell. Matthew Jarvis,
I
please
mean-
be the teacher in this room and
It's
put
the-
Lolies at the back.
I mean,
I'm
we're
just
all in
throwing
virtual
peanuts
space.
at your head.
Spitballing.
Yeah.
Just firing spitballs
Doing
into the
it so
ceiling.
well.
All right, let's chat about some board games. As usual, we'll kick off with what we've been playing this week. Nicola, let's throw over to you as our guest. What have you been playing lately in terms of board games and tabletop stuff?
Actually, I've been really addicted to Codenames Duet. I don't know if you've talked about it yet. Sorry if you have.
It's fine. We talk about the same stuff every week, so don't worry.
Yeah, we
about
literally play
it.
like one game each, and that's our bit.
Well, I have actually also played a new game, but I'll bore you with Codenames Duet first. I really like Codenames Duet. I didn't really like co-op games much before the pandemic, and I've come round, so that's really lovely. Yeah. And it's a nice feeling of collaboration, makes your brain feel like it's worked a bit, done a bit of exercise, and conversation starter. Like I've learnt now the slogan for the Oasis drink, because I didn't know it, and someone used the word pour, P-O-U-R, to get me to guess Oasis, because they thought I should remember that.
What's the slogan? Is it just pour?
Drink more, pour more. I don't know. It clearly didn't ring for me.
Okay.
Honestly, I've not drunk an Oasis in a very long time. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I knew that at one point and just forgot it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, but it's good fun. And actually, I streamed it with the Sunny Malhotra, which is a friend of Alex
on
with
Twitch.
Nice, on Tuesday, and we're doing it again tonight. So you can come see me in action again.
This is not going out till Friday, Nick.
It's weekly, Alex. Lolies.
Oh, okay.
Can't get out of that. I was actually speaking to you, Lolies. You can't get out of that easily.
Oh, okay. That was a special invite just for me. And then you said on the podcast, so I can't pretend like I didn't know about it. Okay, good. What's the
Nice.
new game?
Yeah. Although Codenames Duet's not that old, right? It's like only a couple of years old, I
I
think.
don't know. In
I just feel like
pandemic
I'm late
years.
to the party.
What were you saying?
Yeah. So I feel like I'm just late to the party with Codenames, you know? Like I only really started playing it last year, but I know it's been around a while.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like 4 years old or something.
yeah. In board game years, it's not that long.
Yeah, it's pretty like I feel like it's also just when it first came out, people were big into it and it was like scooping up a load of awards and so on, but it's now hitting that point where people who don't play like board games other than like Monopoly or Scrabble and stuff like that, like it's managed to break into that kind of like world, right? The mainstream thing. You spot it on shelves next to the stuff you'd expect that everyone owns now. It's become one of those.
True. Which is probably why I need to save myself with another game, right? Because I don't want to be a mainstream gamer.
Hey, we're not judging here. There's no gatekeeping.
We don't
Codenames
judge.
is a great game.
Yeah, we love Codenames.
I actually know a new game that you've played. I'm wondering if this is the one you're about to say.
Oh, I don't know. King Domino.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now
I only
we're
played that
talking.
for the first time about 2 months ago. It's really good, actually, isn't it?
It's cute, right? Like it's really aesthetically pleasing, and it's sort of like you're doing your own thing, but you're competing. It's not, and it's not too competitive, so you can still be friends at the end.
Not when you play with me.
like the person you're playing with.
Yeah.
No holds barred King Domino.
I think I'm
What was
the
the
only
one you
one
were-
now who's not played it from the team.
We should play. I love Queen Domino, which is how I came to that series. And I think people are kind of split. Nick, have you played Queen Domino or have you only played King Domino? It's really good. Like I would, if you're looking for, because like King Domino is great by itself, but Queen Domino just adds like a couple of like extra rules that make it a tiny bit more complicated, but without getting super. It doesn't suddenly become like a super deep game, but I think it just adds little kind of, you can build on new red squares. And you can also pay a dragon to go and burn down some buildings.
That's what
which is
you like about
kind
it.
of funny, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Matt? You like burning down people's
I mean,
homes.
from the sounds of it, you're not into co-op games, so like a bit of, torching other players' buildings is probably going to be right up your alley, right?
Great.
King Domino we played it for You've Never Played, because I'd never played it before, so we played it like a few months ago with like when Johnny was still here, and I just remember, and it was so annoying actually because he said it, I think when we just stopped recording, and he was like, oh my god, King Domino, it's kingdom and omino and domino, kingdom omino. And I was like, oh my god, actually, yeah. And he was just like really in love with the name of the game because he was like, it's kingdom and domino.
Had an epiphany.
I also know, Nick, that you played Flamme Rouge recently.
Yeah, that is another one I played, which and how do you know that, Alex?
Because my copy of the game was at Sonny's house and I went to collect it and he was like, yeah, Nick and I played this and we're going to play it again. I was like, not with my copy, you're not. No, I didn't say it, but I thought it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a really nice game. I definitely want to play that with more people. I think it, like 2 people, it was nice. In fact, had you even played it? Because it was put away so perfectly. I was like, surely she's not touched this.
No, I've played it a few times, yeah. I love that game.
Oh.
I just really look after my board games. And also, it's been at his house since the beginning of the pandemic, so, and it's not that old a game, so I haven't played it a huge amount before it was no longer my possession for a long time.
Yeah. You've not quite had the time to spill glasses of squash on it or like get you greasy.
I would
like,
never.
snack hands.
No, stop! Don't talk to me like this, Mian. Don't even start.
It happens in this house.
Oh no.
Well, you know, we're
No.
yeah, these things happen. It's fine.
But yeah, you're saying it's like, it's good with 2 players, but it's definitely one of those games that is better with more, because there's like a mechanic in it where you benefit when people are in the front. And obviously the more players, and you want to be like, you want to be behind them, but not too far behind them. So the more players you have, the more that kind of comes into play, and you can kind of like utilize that for your own benefit. So yeah, it's all right, I think, but it's definitely one of those ones I think you'd want to play with 3 or 4 people ideally. It's one of those, like, you know, when they say 2 to 4 players, but it's really not 2.
Don't lie to me.
Yeah.
I guess you're right. I feel like you're right, that mechanic doesn't really come into its own, but it's quite nice to like kind of, even if you're at the back, you know, you get to catch up, and also the people at the front, they get penalised, right? They get sort of tired tokens, which will always happen. So there'd be more front riders. If there are more people.
I guess both players would be more prone to getting those like tired cards more often, which would, I guess, make for an interesting race when you've like eventually just have a whole hand of like tired cards or whatever they're called
crawling over the finish line.
Yeah,
because it's meant to be based on like the Tour de France, right? The whole sort of setting on it. No?
I think there's a race called
Flamme Rouge.
Yeah, I think there is. I think it's named after it. I think
I'm ignorant when it comes to cycling events. It seems
I am as well, to be fair. But
the name just makes me think of food. I don't know why. Would you like
it
to
does like
flamme
or something? Yeah.
Flamme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or flan.
Flamme Rouge.
Flamme Rouge.
Flamme Rouge. Delicious.
Right.
All right, nice. Is that
about
everything?
anyone else?
Yeah, Lolies, let's throw over to you. What have you been playing recently?
Same thing I've been playing every day, Matt. Star Realms.
The stock market.
You say, taking a slow draw from the Star Realms box. Well, seems like we found ourselves in this position once again.
Yeah, pretty much since I did that stream a couple of weeks ago, I've been playing it like pretty much every day. I hosted a little tournament recently as well for some people, where I didn't play obviously, but it's just a good time. I'm just going through that phase again where I play a lot of Star Realms. I actually realized today, I think I saw on like Facebook, they were like talking about the new arena rules, because every week they've got that like new arena rule, and I was like, oh yeah, of course, it's Tuesday, there's a new arena rule this week that I haven't even looked at yet. So I've been dying to go check it out. I haven't had a chance yet today, but I think probably when we're done this, I'm gonna go have a look and see what it is, because I love the arena. I love the arena.
Sucked into Star Realms again, Lolies.
I mean, I'm never really out of Star Realms. Yeah, I'm just always kind of hovering around it. You know, but
like a bad smell.
Like a bad smell, yeah. Oh, I did play, hold on, I did play it, when was it? Was it last Wednesday, I guess it would have been. So it would have been after we filmed the last podcast. And so Wise Wizard Games, they do stream on Twitch like a couple of days a week, but it's usually like an American time, like PM, so I don't often catch the streams. Which obviously, me being a massive Star Realms fan is a big pity, but they do this thing on Wednesdays where you can like play against one of the inventors of the game, so either Darwin or Rob. And I did it once, I think, where I played Rob, and you can win like a prize if you beat him. So last week it was Darwin, who had played a couple of times, and I think we were on equal scores. I think we'd beaten each other twice each, and we were kind of like, we hadn't played since. So I was like, okay, let's see if I can take Darwin on and win myself 100 credits. And I played, and I absolutely annihilated him. Like, I won with 56 authority. Bearing in mind, you start with 50. I ended with 56 authority and him very dead.
That sounds good. I don't know what it means, but it sounds great.
It means that I killed him whilst also gaining health myself. Lolies? I did. I murdered him dead.
Oh my goodness!
Did he take it well?
Yeah, I think so. I was his first match of that stream, so I guess maybe I was like a warm up. I don't know. I didn't stick around too long because it was like midnight when I played the game. So I just won and went to sleep happily.
You just went peace and then
Just-
left.
Dreamt nice dreams about being a winner. But yeah, that was good. And I've been playing some Gloomhaven Digital because obviously I can't play Gloomhaven in real life at the moment. But I've been playing the digital version, and I'm playing it with a new person. And because I've played Gloomhaven, I keep playing it with new people. I've been playing the same like games over and over again. So I've finally gotten to that point where I've broken past the bit where like I've actually gotten further instead of playing the same scenarios over and over again. So that's exciting. But I have realized that I think before I was like, oh, it's pretty true to the board game. Like they've done a really good job of it, blah, blah, blah. There's definitely certain things that have been annoying me. Like one of them is like, for example, there's a bit where you have to like select who you're targeting with your attack. And the game can be kind of confusing with the selection. And then there's no way to fix it because it's a video game. Whereas in real life, you would say, I'm attacking these two. And then you could just, or, you can like fix mistakes when you're playing a board game. That like when you're playing with an AI kind of thing, it's not possible to do that stuff. And that's been really frustrating me because in Gloomhaven in particular, especially when you've got like some hard quests, lots of little mistakes will make the difference at the end. So that's been a bit frustrating, but also I've realized that in the board game, well, two things. Firstly, the number of enemies change depending on how many players you've got. But also that the enemies always start in the same place. So if you were to go to a quest and like you set up the enemies in a certain way, if you then like, I don't know, died or just fancied playing that quest again or whatever, the enemies will start in the same place. That's not the case in the like digital version because it's because I said I've played a few of the quests like multiple times now. I've realized that they actually changed the location of where the enemies are, which like I understand to a certain extent why they would do it because the whole kind of thing with Gloomhaven is that you aren't really supposed to have the information of where the enemies are when you go into a different room and stuff like that, and also how many enemies there are. So kind of like skews that information for you a little bit, I guess, which makes it a bit fresher. But also, I feel like they're probably the way the enemies are set up in the first place in the board game is done in a certain way that it's almost like a puzzle of how to like defeat them, and that kind of gets taken away when they just get randomly like plopped on the board. So those are things that I've noticed, but they haven't like done a campaign version yet. This is still just playing with it because it's still in beta. So I'm looking forward to them finally just releasing the full game and playing through the campaign. But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Nice. I keep meaning to check out the Gloomhaven digital version because
It's really good.
as I said before, like the Gloomhaven's combat stuff is really fun, but the idea of unpacking Gloomhaven to play it is, I think at
All
this
the
point,
little
just a hill I
tokens.
don't want to climb. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of investment for the sake of, like, it's a great game, but, like when you're spending as long packing it up and setting it up, or even longer than you are playing, it just feels a bit much.
Yeah. I think ideally you want to get a few games in if you're going to be playing it in real life. Because,
It's like
leave
a
it
weekend game rather than like an evening game.
I think so.
Just leave it out on your table.
I'm not made of tables.
Well, our friend Sunny, who we mentioned earlier, he owns the Gloomhaven copy that I've played in IRL, and he's got a huge table. So when we were able to meet up in our like real life and play these games, he would just leave it out if he knew that we're gonna play it like the following weekend or whatever. But obviously, yeah, that's table spaces can be a premium sometimes. Yeah, it is a luxury, definitely.
Well, do you think I have like hundreds of tables or something?
This is the Gloomhaven table, and just like in a box, like people have train sets or like dioramas in a box. Instead, you've just got Gloomhaven.
I mean, it's something to
that's-
strive towards, right? In your life.
Yeah, having so many tables that can have, every single game that you have can have its own table that it's set up on.
Yeah.
I do like the dining room tables, the kind of board game tables where you lift out the middle, and then I think people can store stuff flat under there. That's quite nice. But then I guess the miniatures would be too tall, so you'd have to replace them with tokens or something. I don't know. But
Yeah, you can
that's
just lay
quite a
them
nice
down.
idea of just plonk this
just-
bit of wood on top
Just
and
lay
keep
them
going.
down to sleep.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then me and Han wouldn't get squashed all over the game either, because that's they're designed to have the drinks underneath.
Exactly. I wouldn't be able to spill my cream soda over everything all the time.
Cream soda. of
making it
course,
all
that's the drink
sticky.
that you'd go for.
Yeah.
That or DP.
Yeah,
Dr.
all right.
Pepper.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
no,
was like, what's
I'm
DP?
aware of what DP is.
I didn't
Thank you.
know.
I'm hip and happening with the latest drinks of the 1940s.
It's really big in Soho at the moment. DP, yeah. It's hot. It's hot stuff.
That's hot.
Speaking of hot stuff, what have you been playing, Alex Meehan?
Is that because I'm hot
Whoa!
No, the hot
HR.
games you've been playing, hot
No.
releases.
stuff? No, it's fine.
Wow.
I know what you mean. I'm just having a laugh. And, giving myself some compliments. I need it after being told I stink. Yeah, so I've been playing. So I've had another week where I've actually been playing stuff. So this is exciting, and it's not like just the same games all the time. So keeping it fresh.
Won't take that personally as a member of your Root and Terraforming Mars weekly group.
I'm not throwing shade. I just get mocked sometimes for basically being the Scythe person or the Root person
It's
or
true.
the Terraforming Mars person. So I'm shaking those chains off this week. So I played 2 games this week. Firstly, I played Stardew Valley, which
board game.
is indeedly, yes. There is, Stardew Valley, the board game. I have not played Stardew Valley, the video game.
Oh, that's interesting. Was it this a game you were invited to then, and you just were like, yeah, let's do some farming?
Yeah, well, my friend hosted it, and they were like, do you want to... Because I was like, I want to play some more board games online, and they were like, well, we like Stardew Valley, do you want to play that? And I was like, hell yeah. So
Hell to the yeah.
Exactly. So again, I'm not going to be able to provide a very good kind of comparison to the video game, although I have a vague idea of what you do in it. The artwork is basically from the video game, so like including the character cards, which are based off the kind of designs of the characters you find in the video game, whereas the rest of the artwork is all kind of pixelated and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cute, like the art style is really nice, and if you like that art style, you'll probably like this. Basically, if you like Stardew Valley, you'll probably like this game, because it heavily borrows from the kind of things that you'll be doing in that game. So it takes place over 4 different seasons. I wonder what those are. And these are like rounds. And it's a co-op game, so you're working together. And you start the game with a selection of random objectives set to you by your grandfather.
Yes.
Who turns
as in
out
the game.
who turns out is masochistic, because the objectives are actually really hard.
Oh, God.
And so he's like, you better get this done, otherwise everything is ruined. So it turns out that maybe
Does
the
sound
main
like my
difference-
grandfather.
Maybe the main difference here from the video game is that it's quite a stressful experience, really, playing it, because you're on a time limit in terms of getting everything done, and a lot of the objectives require a lot of investment. So the ones we were working with were like, make this many friends, fish the legendary fish. I think there were some others that I can't remember. But we all kind of got assigned to different roles, and we call them roles because they're not like, this is all you do, but it's more like, this is what you're specialised in doing. So I took the fishing one, which meant that I spent a lot of my time going down to the lake and the sea and trying to get the fishes. And a lot of the stuff you do works in a similar manner, that you have a set of dice that you roll, and you want to try and get certain results. So for fishing, I wanted to get the results to match the fish that I wanted. But I was basically overfishing this island to the point where there was nothing left in the oceans, which is terrible for the environment.
Jesus.
But
So you
because I
over-specialise.
needed to find all the legendary fish, but the fish are drawn randomly, so you've got to hope that. And the legendary fish just happened to be the last damn fish in the bag, which meant that I spent most of the game fishing. Someone else was very good at like mining, so they went off to the mines, and like again, a lot of it's rolling to get the right kind of results. It worked slightly differently, they're not all the same. But this is the biggest criticism I'd have of Stardew Valley, in the sense that a lot of it is based in RNG, in terms of you just gotta hope that you get the results you need. Otherwise, you're kind of a bit screwed, because it kind of gets to the point. So we had quite a bad start to the game in terms of our luck was quite awful, and it just kind of meant that we could have like pulled things round. It's not like it's impossible once you have a bad start. But then, for example, with me, with the fish being the last ones in the bag, like it meant that I spent so much time trying to do that I couldn't help so much with everything else that we were doing. And a lot of the strategy of the game is just like, okay, what do we have in our inventories? What equipment do we have, so you can upgrade equipment once you get the right kind of resources. And that makes things easier. But again, you want to try and do that as quickly as possible. And we weren't getting the resources we needed to do that. So things were kind of stacked against us in that regard. So we did lose. We ran out of time before we could succeed. But at no point did it kind of feel like, oh, we're doomed, that's it. It was close, but I'd say the biggest problem with that game is like there's a lot of randomness. But I like games of randomness, to be honest. And I had a fun time playing it. You know, it's very accessible in the sense that there's a lot going on in it, but what you're doing really isn't that complicated. And, you know, especially as you're working as a group, I was playing with people who have played before, so they could kind of help walk me through what the best things, you know, to do are. So I enjoyed it. I would be interested to play it again to see whether we could get better luck and whether the objectives we had were particularly difficult ones. And again, because we lost as part of a group, it didn't feel so bad. And I think that's what a big strength of co-op games, yeah, is the fact that you lose as a team rather than on your own in the corner. But that was Stardew Valley. So there's a mod on TTS you can get for that, because obviously buy games, but it's very difficult to get Stardew Valley at the moment because it's basically sold out. And it's only available in the US. So
I was going to say, I think it only came out in the US because it seemed to just explode, and then within a day it was all gone. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I hope they make it more widely available, even if that means they have to go for a larger publisher. Oh god, what's the company called? Something Gorilla, right?
Concerned Ape.
Concerned Ape. I wasn't far
I
off.
think so.
Yeah, I hope I think they released it themselves.
Yeah, I think so. It's I think their name's Eric something. It's kind of like a one-person team, at least to begin with. I imagine it's more people now. But
yeah. So I do hope that maybe they try and do a deal with a publisher to make it more widely available, because I think a lot of people want to play that game, and it is fun. Like, it's not groundbreaking, but it is better, again, as video game board games go. It's one of the better ones in terms of there are some real crappy ones. So yeah, I enjoyed that. And then I also played Unmatched Battle of Legends, which is a nicely generic name. What is not generic though is the box art and the components, which are incredible. Like, the quality of that game is amazing in terms of the box feels so good. The artwork is really nice, both on the box and particularly on the cards. So it's a skirmish game, I'd call it, with card sort of playing mechanics. So you do have a board with miniatures on, and you control those characters using their specific deck of cards, which allows them to kind of move and attack and do various other actions depending on, you know, who you're playing with. And the premise of it has always been really interesting because it's entirely based on like fictional historical characters. Firstly, the ones that they managed to get the license to because they're in the public domain. So the core box that we played, which is the first release they did, is King Arthur, Sinbad, Alice from Alice in Wonderland, and Medusa. So those are all characters that I think are in the public domain.
What a dinner party.
Yeah. But then they kind of did some future releases partnered with licensed brands. So like there's a Jurassic Park one where you can play as the Velociraptors. There's a Buffy the Vampire Slayer one. Yeah, Nicola, you should be laughing. It's so stupid.
Yeah, man.
But it's also kind of amazingly wonderful in the sense that they've sort of, I don't know how it works with those kind of characters, but the ones that are in the core set that we played with, they do like feel like they're part of the same, you know, game. Like the designs of the artwork and especially on the cards, it all kind of looks like this is not some weird mashup that's odd. They all look like they could be in the same universe, like battling against one another for whatever reason. I played as Alice, and my friend played as Medusa. And yeah, like it's accessible enough in the sense that it did not take us very long to learn the game. The system it's based on, wasn't it used for Star Wars? Like something?
Yeah, there was a Star Wars game that came out a long time ago. I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah, something.
But yeah, it just pulls from that, but without Star Wars. I think Rob Daviau was involved in the original Star Wars thing and involved in this as well. So
yeah, he is involved in this. And yeah, the system is very accessible, but it's great because it means that they're able to kind of build on top of a very solid framework in the terms of like Alice, for example, had her own unique ability. She could go big or small. And like going, you know, choosing either of those sizes has their own advantages. And she also had a sidekick, the Jabberwock, who counts as like a figure on the board. It's actually a token. But like, for example, my opponent had to kill both Alice and the Jabberwock to win. Whereas they had Medusa and 3 Harpies. But the Harpies had less health than my Jabberwock. So even in then, like we were, you know, we had different kind of advantages and disadvantages. But Medusa is definitely a character that is long range attacks. So her ability is she could shoot like an arrow at her opponent as long as they're in the same zone and do damage. But her deck was a lot more defensively based, which meant that I had the agonizing experience of chasing her around the board constantly, trying to get her as she just shot me from a distance. And because Alice is melee range, she can't do long range attacks. So it definitely felt like the characters were unique in the sense of the way you play them. But I just cannot praise the artwork enough, especially on the cards. It's amazing. Like that, some of that stuff is it's so much better than you expect it to be in terms of this kind of game. Like it's just like really good quality. So I would definitely be interested in playing some of the other expansions and things like that. And they've got a new core set coming out some point this year, I think. I wrote the story on it, but
yeah, I'm really. This is one of those games that I've wanted to play for a while. I think it was kind of hard to get a hold of in the UK for a bit. It's because it's Restoration. Oh, it's Restoration Games and Mondo, right?
Yeah.
Like the pop culture poster and apparel and whatnot.
Yeah.
Studio. So yeah.
Yeah. It's like a very odd, like unmatched matchup between Restoration Games and Mondo in the sense that, like, yeah, I think Mondo is what does I think they do the heavy lifting in terms of acquiring the franchise and brand and stuff, whereas Restoration Games like actually have made a workable system and then designed the decks and make it look not like a piece of crap.
Yeah,
So...
it's a cool, because like you say, the concept is kind of dumb because it's the equivalent of taking
dumb.
2 action figures and just slamming them together.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I've got T-Rex and Bruce Lee. Let's see how they
Bruce
go.
Lee
But-
is one of them. Yeah.
But it sounds like from what you've said and from what I've heard from others, it sounds like they really do pull it off, and it seems to be like they've put out a lot of packs since that first set. So presumably it's doing pretty well because they're continuing to put them out.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's not revolutionary, but I think that it's just very satisfying in terms of like, because it's so simple, and yet your brain is still forced to work for that win or whatever. Like, you have to. It's not just like that Funko Games thing that Wheels and I played, which is like, the Funko Games thing is like the dark universe version of this. It's like, how do you do this concept but terribly, in the sense that literally like the opposite. The components were horrible in terms of like the quality was terrible. Like the gameplay was just so boring and stripped back and just not good. And it was obviously that also works with different kind of licenses and stuff. And it's kind of like you look over at Unmatched and you're like, this is how you do that, because this is actually fun to play. It's not overly complicated. It's fun and it doesn't look like crap. So there you go.
Nice.
I just wanted to stir the pot, I think. Lolies is just sat there going, you didn't think it was that bad.
So,
I don't know. Matt, what did you play? Tell us.
I played a lot of Magic the Gathering.
Oh, look at you. Sat in your ivory tower.
I played.
Tragic the Gathering, am I right?
Well, now
you're just making.
Yeah, Lolies is now.
You've seen me play, haven't you? On Friday, like Friday afternoon, me and Chase and I played a bit of Magic. Because the new Strixhaven set is out, which is basically their version of Hogwarts. It has 5 colleges, they do magic, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's an attractive person there.
Yeah, a few, from what I understand. Although that was not my draw to Magic the Gathering.
Well,
I played a bit.
Some other people have interest.
Look, if you are in for Magic because of all the attractive people, that's perfectly
basically
fine.
the main draw for me. I'm not very good at it.
I've played before, and actually, like I say, we played, and I ended up doing. So I've been playing on Magic the Gathering Arena, and I've played Magic before. I've played generally with like pre-made decks, and like I enjoy it for what it's worth, but I've kind of never really sunk into it in the way that it seems to grab other people. This might be the closest I've come yet, but I ended up going through the color challenges. So there are 5 mana colors, and they basically make you play with a single color deck for each color. And you go up against each of the other 4 colours, and then you have to play a human at the end. So you play like 4 AI, then a human.
The biggest challenge.
Yeah, and win or lose, you do actually pass. It's fine. And I think I've done like 4 of the colour challenges now. So I played like a couple of dozen games, because I also played some other games outside of that. And it's fun. It's a good way of learning. It does a really good job of teaching you Magic and kind of getting you to understand, oh, maybe you don't want to attack with all of your creatures this turn because they're just going to get wrecked by this thing that has like 5 toughness. But I will say that I went through, like I say, the different colours, and I ended up using the red deck that you used me in, and I hated it. I hated that particular deck, which is goblins everywhere, something like that.
I know, and I'd love that.
Yeah, I didn't gel with it at all, and it's actually the one I had the most trouble with. I lost quite a few times.
So essentially you're telling me that it was entirely the deck's fault, not mine, that I lost so badly.
Oh, I don't think it was your fault. Yeah, I think you also had bad card draw.
I played with that other red deck.
But the deck wasn't great.
There was another red deck that I don't know whether I just wasn't getting good draws. Essentially, when I played with Chase and Matt, again, I've not really played Magic that much. I've played other card games. That's a very, very general sort of phrase. But I used to play a bit of Hearthstone, which is like an entirely digital-based card game, back in the day. And then I played some Keyforge, so I know some of the fundamental kind of mechanics that those kind of games use. But Magic is a bit different in the sense that obviously you have to use lands, some mana, and that can get confusing, and it's been around forever, so there are about 1 billion keywords. But I played against Matt and Chase using these 2 red decks, because like Chase recommended I try using red mana because of my general sort of play styles. And they were both just terrible in the sense that I just wasn't drawing the cards that synergized with the other cards I had in my hand. So it's like, oh, this does a really cool thing, but you need to have this first. I'm like, well, I don't have that. So this is basically garbage you've just handed me. And that happened twice, whereas your green deck, you drew 3 of those horrible rhino things.
Yeah, that was they buffed each other and they kind of wiped you out. But
Perfect.
I think that red deck definitely, like I say, I had real trouble until I played a very particular way, which is basically just to stack a load of enchantments that then did 2 damage every time I attacked. And I ended up doing like 15 damage in 1 turn, just because I'd stacked them all. But I didn't love it. So yeah, I would, if you're not turned off by that experience on Friday, I would just recommend trying a different color deck. I think that's kind of the nice thing about Magic, is you can make it what you want it to be in some ways if you don't gel with a color or a deck.
I mean, Chase and I, so Chase is our teacher, as it were, in the Magic world, or at least it certainly is mine. And afterwards, I was feeling a bit salty. And he was like, let's try... So there's Friday Night Magic that you can do on Magic Arena, which I think gives you a selection of decks to play against people, and then you can win stuff if you do really well. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll give it a go. And we tried this white and black deck, was it? It was an odd deck, because it was using the adventuring thing that Chase had used in one of his previous decks. And I think that had been released with Zendikar.
Yeah, I think that's right. Quests were part of Throne of Eldraine.
Oh.
And then Zendikar introduced something else. Party. Zendikar Rising introduced the party mechanic.
Right, I was getting confused. So yeah, the Throne of Eldraine introduced this adventuring mechanic. It was very weird, but kind of fun in the sense that cards will have 2 uses. And you can play them as an effect or as a minion. So a lot of the cards we played the effect, and then we played them as a minion afterwards. And there were quite a lot of cards that synergized with having adventuring, cards played or like in your deck. And we also had some flying minions as well. And Chase kind of sort of taught me through how to play it. But there was one card which was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. That was, it was something like, kill all other minions that aren't giants. And it was a giant card we played, so it basically killed all of the opponent's minions on the board. And I was like, if I was that person, I'd feel so salty. I'd be mad.
I wouldn't take that well at all.
I feel like generally there are a few like Magic cards that do that. But yeah, that they tend to be like either expensive or just not as common. Like I feel that's something you see more in Keyforge. Keyforge is just like you churn through creatures at an unbelievable rate.
Yeah, no,
but
Keyforge is much faster paced, but I think that's because Keyforge isn't a mana based game.
Yeah,
so
that's the
so getting minions out on the board isn't such a struggle. But also minions aren't so important in terms of you're not trying to kill your opponent, you're trying to forge keys. So, just having loads of bodies on the board isn't necessarily, the aim of things. It's more about what they can do for you in terms of gaining Ember. But yeah, I'd be up for giving it another go.
I feel like it's got enough of the hooks in at this point where I'm like, oh, you know what? Yeah, like maybe I'll go down a little hole with this, like I did with Yu-Gi-Oh! A little while ago, like I did with something. Like you fall kind of down the trading card game hole at some point and be like, yeah, I'll play this like solidly for a few months and see what happens. But
is this like what happened when you got into Infinity for a bit and then you bought all those miniatures?
Infinity. Yeah.
So
I mean,
now you're gonna get into Magic.
I think the big question for me will be like, can I be asked to build a deck? Because that's where Magic often falls apart for me. Is like, I don't want to spend most of my time with this game doing admin, looking up meta lists, and like, I just want to play the game. Like, just let me play the game. Like, which I think is the appeal of something like Keyforge or games. Yeah.
There you go.
But,
is it a long game, Magic? Like, how much is it?
It's like on Arena, like games can take 5-10 minutes. Like typically, they're not super long. And I think that's the thing. Is like if you spend half an hour to an hour like putting together your deck, and then you play a 5-10 minute game and get trashed, and just be like, well, I spent all this time investing in this deck, and it's clearly just rubbish.
My life.
Yeah, so I think that'll be an interesting thing for me. I think Arena does help with that stuff because it does have those kind of ready built decks, and I'm kind of curious to see how the deck building stuff is in that. But we'll see, and I think it's definitely nice having someone like Chase to guide you through. But Arena does do a good job of introducing those concepts to you, so we'll see. Jason Coles actually is not up on the website as of this podcast, but next week Jason Coles has written a piece about Pack Wars, which is like a format for Magic where you just have a load of land cards and you open one booster pack and you don't know what's in it, but that's your deck. It's one booster pack and some lands, and that sounds like the kind of fun Magic that I'm into. Like I want to play Draft as well, because if the deck building is kind of part of the game, I think that will interest me much more than I need to go away for 2 hours and study up on the meta.
Yeah.
And then just get, like, say, salty when something destroys me and have to be like, well, clearly that didn't work. Time to go back to the drawing board. But yeah, the only other thing, as we move on, is I have a copy of Oath sat on this table with me, and I'm itching to play it.
Yeah.
It's a really big box, given that Root is not huge. Root's like a medium-sized box. Oath is bloody massive. I don't know if that's because Lady Games kind of sent over the Kickstarter edition, so it might have a load of stuff that's not in the like whatever version comes out of retail, but it's real big and it looks great. There's a little pig from Carl Farron on the side.
Yeah, I saw
Carl
that.
Farron's
Pig
art
is
is
so
great
cute.
as always. Yeah,
Matt
it's a cute
shared the
little
pig with us, and we were like, "This is MVP pig."
I think the pig did come up actually in our playthrough of Oath when we played it with Cole Worley. I think the pig came up as a treasure somewhere.
He is a treasure.
You can go and
Look at
check
it.
out that video if you want to see a little pig.
Yeah.
Let's move on to news, shall we? Let's blast through these. So first up, Alex Meehan,
Hello.
tell us about
I'm in the
Great
chopper.
Grail Games. It's
Yeah.
not great news from Grail Games. It's gonna,
Well, yeah. I mean, it's sort of not entirely unexpected either, considering the way things have been going. So, yeah, Grail Games have kind of put a blog post out, and it's an interesting one because it kind of goes through the history of the publisher, and due to that history, they've unfortunately just decided to drop a lot of their planned reprints of Reiner Knizia. He's back again, back with a vengeance.
He never
Always
really left
Knizia,
us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of they had planned to do reprints of several of Knizia's kind of classics. So they'd already done things like Yellow and Yangtze, which I think you like.
Yeah, I love it. It's gutting because Yellow and Yangtze is a really, really good game.
And they'd done the Medici, the card game, and other beloved games from that designer. And I think they had planned to do several other reprints, including like a full-on remake of Medici, which they'd announced last year, and it had gone to Kickstarter. Has it gone to Kickstarter yet?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I think
it was
they just
going to-
announced it. Yeah.
They were going to go to Kickstarter, but they've kind of put that in the toilet, as it were, because it seems that reprints of games like this aren't doing so well. So they explained their reasons as being like these reprints, while great at getting board game geekers specifically to notice what one is doing, just hasn't sold well. admitted Harding, David Harding, who is basically the founder of Grail Games, which is interesting because kind of follows on from a story we had from Zedman Games, who had cancelled their Euro Classic line, which had pretty much only featured Knizia games.
Yeah.
Up to that point. And their first game that was not a Knizia game was about to come out and they cancelled that. So it's kind of like, yeah, a bit harsh. But and they cited so Kimball, Steve Kimball, who's basically the studio head of Zedman Game, had also cited Board Game Geek and sort of that difficulty of getting people to notice what you're doing outside of the real hobbyists.
Which, honestly, I'm surprised because they put out a digital version of Yellow and Yangtze, which is also, like, it's a really good port. But you would think that if they went in for an app, you would think that game was doing well enough for them to go, it's time to put out a digital version. Because I would guess that the amount of people who buy a digital version of a board game is probably a smaller proportion of the proportion that buy that.
Yeah.
So I was surprised to hear that, like, oh yeah, they just haven't really done very well, which, Yellow and Yangtze particularly, because Tigris and Euphrates is, like, a beloved classic and very hard to find. Actually, I think that was one of the ones that Zedman or Fancy Flight put out.
Yeah, they put out a version of Tigris and Euphrates?
I don't know. Yeah.
We talk about this often, how the hell...
Not a historian, I only ever read these words.
I mean, it might be the case that, Yellow and Yangtze did do well, and it might be the case that the other reprints that they've done just haven't performed up to that standard in terms of what they'd hoped. Even though they're all by Knizia, Knizia makes so many games that it might be the case of, like, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of Knizia's games are going to be hits or have been hits. On
paper, because, like, Medici as well it's not among his biggest games, but it's fairly well known in the community and the hobby. But maybe at this point it's just that
people already have copies.
Exactly. The people that like it already like it, don't need to buy a new copy, and for everyone else it's kind of like a game from 30 years ago that they just don't feel the need to pick up because there's so much stuff coming out that's brand new. Which is a real shame because Medici the card game also really loved it, but they gave it new art. I think they reworked the rules, so I would guess there was investment up front rather than just putting out kind of same look, same rules. That
there's always investment involved because you still have to produce the actual games. I mean, it is a shame in the sense that the Medici Reformation project, like, it looked like a fundamental improvement on the original in terms of, like, its quality. So, like, the artwork is 1 billion times better than the original. Like, the original artwork is just like, oh, this is enticing. Sort of a weird looking man is here. He looks vaguely Italian. But the new artwork, you know what I mean. The new artwork was just so much better in terms of the quality. But it's a shame that it's all work's all gone, and I don't know whether they just thought it was worth stopping now rather than produce all that stuff and then it not do well. But I think they're moving on to kind of new stuff now. So they are releasing a new edition of Fjords, which was co-created by Phil Walker Harding and Beth Sobel, who are both fairly prominent in the industry. There's a new game coming from Scott Elms, who did Tiny Epic Galaxies, and there's a few others that they apparently haven't announced yet, which is exciting. So, to be honest with you, I do prefer publishers to work on new stuff in general. Like, I kind of feel like those older games that I want to get my hands on, most of the time I'll go for ones that are fairly easily obtainable rather than things that have been sort of out of print for a while. But I like new ideas, so I'm not really that gutted by this. But I think
Yeah.
there is a reason to be somewhat sad about this if you really wanted to see those games.
Yeah, I think it's just particularly shame. Like I went hunting for Tigris and Euphrates, on the App Store because it used to be available because I played quite a lot of it and was very bad at it. But you just can't find it anymore, and I think that's more the kind of the shame is that these games are just like if you do want to check them out, there's not even a way of doing that digitally anymore. I guess Tabletop Simulator probably has a mod somewhere, but they're not official, so it's not like you're supporting the people who made it. But so it's just a case of if you want to play Tigris and Euphrates, you either have to hunt down a copy somewhere that's probably going to be extravagantly expensive, or kind of settle for a TTS mod or whatever it may be. So it'd just be nice if there was a way of these games being available in some form for those who want to play it. I think that's more the shame, is this sense that they're just being dropped, and will we ever see them again, or is that it for these kind of games?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Grail Games are still stocking these games at least until the end of the year. So if you want to get your hands on copies, do it now.
Yeah, they do literally say oh, grab them while you can, because
they go
after that, who knows? Yeah,
they're going in a landfill along with ET.
The video game, not the alien. Just that was a really dark ending to ET that they cut in the end. All right, let's move on to Galaxy Trucker. Quick one, it's come back.
It's trucking back. It's still trucking.
That should be the tagline on the bottom of the box. Still trucking.
Yeah, I think Galaxy Trucker is a pretty popular game from what I know. People seem to enjoy it.
I own it, but I've never played it.
So this is going to be real insightful. So it was kind of originally released in 2007, which is a long time ago now, believe it or not.
It's a long time ago.
Speak for yourself.
Hey, just keeping it real.
I was 17.
And so the publishers check games.
Yes.
Yeah.
Check Games Edition.
Yeah. They are releasing a brand new edition of the game with new artwork, which looks nice. It's bright and colourful. I think it's way better than the old one.
Looks like a kid's game. It looks better than the old one, but
Yeah.
it's still not very good.
Yeah, it's still
somehow
it's probably not representative. I mean, I think in the press release, for example, I think they're really trying to push this as an accessible game in terms of they were saying, oh look, I believe there's it's apparently been somewhat streamlined, the gameplay, to make it a bit more, again, accessible. There is a campaign mode you can play called Transgalactic Trek, which I think is designed for people who want a bit more challenge. But having not played it, I wouldn't be able to tell you what the difficulty level is like. But they seem to really be pushing it as this is a family game that you can play with your kid.
It says 10+ on the old box.
Yeah. It was designed by, now help me out here, Matt, Vlada Chvátil. Did I do that right?
Yeah.
There you go. Who made Codenames. So there you go, Nicola. It all comes back around.
I feel Vlada's another one that just churns out games just quietly, because I Space Alert, I think is Mage Knight, and just all these games kind of just flying out, but it's
I wouldn't say they churn them out though. Not Knizia
no,
style. No one does it like Knizia.
No one does it like
Knizia. But there's still Vlada Chvátil's put out a number of big games. I always forget just how many of those kind of recognizable names he's been behind. So Galaxy Trucker I think is what you say, pretty well rated. I think
it looks, so I'm saying it looks different. It looks better. I looking at it now, I'm more interested to play it. Whereas as I say, I've had the game for several years, and I've not even opened the box, I don't think. Because the old cover looked like it was a heavy game. It didn't look like a family game that they've kind
gone
of
in the opposite
now.
direction now. Yeah, they've definitely rebranded it to try and maybe because board gaming is more popular now, so they're hoping that they'll be able to catch the eye of people. Because the theme is very playful, because it's you're basically a cargo ship flying through the galaxy.
Star Trucking.
Star Trucking, exactly. So as far as the key differences, it's mostly just going to be artwork. I think there's going to be some more components, and they're just going to be better quality in general. And as they say, they said the gameplay is going to be streamlined. I don't know what that means specifically.
It's like every publisher's favourite word now,
Yeah.
I feel. Is everything is streamlined.
Yeah, so how much of an effect that's going to have on things, we don't know. But, I've heard this one banded about, and I've been intrigued by it. It sounds fun.
Do you want to buy my old copy, Mian?
Nope.
I'm going to have to upgrade.
So there's it's sort of aiming for summer. There's no specific date other than that, but it seems like quite reasonably priced. They said £25, which is, yeah. I mean, that's from me doing conversion from euros, so it might not be that specifically, but
I think, yeah, under 30 quid though, because it was €30, I'm guessing.
it's
They're basically
about
1 to 1
€30,
at this
yeah.
point. Cheers, Brexit. But I think that's anything under 30 quid feels pretty reasonable
Feels
for a board game
affordable for a board
nowadays.
game, yeah. When some board games are priced over £100, it is like 30 quid is now a deal. Obviously that's dependent on what's in there, but
Yeah, that feels like, because I guess you can probably find code names for 15 quid nowadays.
Yeah,
And this feels like the step up from that. That feels about
much
right.
smaller
but-
game though. Like code names,
Yeah,
considering what
yeah.
you get in there, there's not a huge amount, like in terms of, it's just a bunch of cards really. Not that I love code names. This is not slagging it off. It's literally just being real.
And a sand timer.
Yeah, the
think.
sound
Yeah.
timer.
Yeah,
and
look.
and the little things, so
No
your
expense
the little
spared.
plastic things, so your thing
Yeah.
can sit in it.
I mean,
There's
Star
loads in
Realms
there.
is just a bunch of cards, really, as well, right?
Yeah, true. Let's dig on Star
let's
Realms.
dunk on stuff.
Oi! Stop it!
Nah, Star
it!
Realms is like a tenner, right? I feel like that feels alright. But yeah, I'm interested in this. I don't know if I've ever played Galaxy Truck. I don't think I have.
I'm
I think
surprised,
sometimes I
Matt,
get it
because-
confused with Space Alert.
Matt, I'm surprised because you seem like the truckin' type.
Thank you so kindly.
No, he's train man.
Yeah,
He can't be
trains
seen
and-
on a truck.
Trucks are just trains of the land. Wait, trains also go on land. Trucks are just trains of the road. It's all.
Wonderful. Get that on a bumper sticker. Put it on
Yeah.
the truck.
My other truck is a train. It's fun. Yeah, I like games where you haul stuff from one place to another
Yeah.
place. I really like
You like that-
Wasteland Express Delivery Service is a great game, and that game is all just about you're in these Mad Max style trucks and you just lug in cargo.
Yeah,
between
because
places.
even in the post-apocalyptic Mad Max world,
Hmm.
people still need their deliveries. They still need their t-shirts.
Yeah, there's still the gig job
Yeah.
economy.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but yeah, interested to see Galaxy Trucker and see what streamlined means. Basically,
Yeah.
It's like what does that mean? You just knocked a few words out the rule book.
Who knows?
What does that actually mean?
Now,
It's-
Matt Jarvis, tell us about what's on television these days.
I feel
Oh,
like
yeah,
I've heard
this-
this news before.
Did you read it on Dicebreaker.com?
I think we've
You've-
discussed it before.
You may have confused it with like
Yeah,
the-
we've done
also
quite
the
a few
many
stories like.
like
I
television
talked about-
adaptations of board games.
Weirdly though, okay, I mean, tell us what it is, and then
Yeah,
we'll talk
relieve
about
us.
it.
All right, yeah. So, Guess Who is being made into a television show?
Yeah,
Guess
I
Who,
know.
The classic
The
game
audience,
of
slowly.
do they have glasses? Do they have brown hair?
Yeah, do they have a moustache?
all of that kind of you flip them over, you try and guess who, and now you'll try and guess who on your television screen.
I
what that
feel
means,
like we
though.
talked about this before, and I feel like I literally talked about it at the weekend to a friend, and I was like, "Yeah, they're making a TV show about Guess Who."
Well, that's
Am
your
I
friend,
psychic?
right?
I must have been psychic.
I mean, this is from a few days ago.
Yeah.
Chase wrote it up, so you may have just read the story.
Maybe
and
I
then...
did. Yeah.
It's not. We're not. This isn't the news breaking now, but yeah, I'm kind of.
We've guessed the story behind Lolies'
Yeah.
mystery.
So this is coming out of Hasbro, which owns the game, as it does with Risk and the other Cluedo. That's got a movie on the way.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a.
And they
D&D,
technically own D&D as well.
Yeah, Magic the Gathering, all of the stuff. There's a lot of stuff coming out of Hasbro, but this is going to be what sounds like a reality TV. A game show, not a reality TV show. We don't know anything more about it, really. We just know that it is going to be, they say here in this story from Chase, it'll be a competition for cash prizes. It's in development between Entertainment One, which is part of Hasbro, and Endemol, which I think Endemol, I think, did Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
It's quite storied as a game show production company. So quoting from Chase's story, the show will feature unscripted episodes wherein contestants must rely on intuition and parceled out clues to judge situations in the moment. Much more about the structure of the show is unclear. So this comes via Deadline, which broke the news. So we basically don't know anything about it other than it's Guess Who, and you can win some money by playing Guess Who.
Matt,
People.
That's the first thing that came to my head. Is it like Celebrity Squares, but you just you have famous people and you're trying to guess famous people?
Yeah.
But
did you ever watch Your Face or Mine with Ginny?
No.
I know
and it was
of it, but it sounds.
It was like it was quite. It's just so like, what does your face look like, basically? And it is quite a sort of shallow game, I suppose. You're basically just choosing which person looks more hot against another person, and the audience votes. Yeah, it's a tough. This sounds like that mixed with First Date, Blind Date, even.
Yeah. Oh wow. That if they turn it into a dating show.
Imagine.
Oh, that sounds like sounds like like you say, a slippery slope to go down. Is it just Naked Attraction but Guess Who?
Oh god. Oh god, no! I think about all the schematics of that. Matt Jarvis.
I'm intrigued to see what this ends up being. It feels like at some point, like whether it's next year, whether it's the year after that, we're suddenly going to have a lot of TV shows based on board games just spring out of the woodwork, because there's all sorts. Like, are you going to tune in for an evening of like the Risk series followed by the Guess Who game show, followed by the Ticket to Ride reality show? Yeah.
God, I've got
there's all sorts in the works.
Matt, I can't stop looking at this quote. Guess Who is a game that I loved playing when I was growing up. And now I'm playing at home with my friends and family. Are you?
Is this from one of the executives involved?
Sharon Levy? Are you really playing that game at the moment? Because
it's funny you laugh, because actually Lolies, I don't know if you've played it at all, but again, our friend Sonny, he's been playing a version called Subjective Guess Who on his stream, which is fine because they're bits of card and they're not real people. I just usually just tune in.
Okay.
But you're sort of asking like broad questions, trying to make assumptions about their personalities, which brings a bit more flavour to the game, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a game I've played since I was maybe 8. Like,
yeah, I mean,
it's not, again, they're picking games with name recognition or whatever for these television shows. But it just infuriates me that Hasbro have so much on offer that they could be picking, and instead they're choosing the thing with the least substance.
It does feel a bit like they've
world.
run out of ideas for game shows, and they're now just taking board games and trying to fit them into a game
It's like
show.
the Risk thing, like
But
the Risk series. Like there's very little substance there apart from there are some enemies that
They should make a
there's some
Star
armies
Realms
that are
TV
fighting.
program, because there's
There
actually a
you
lot of
go.
lore in Star Realms, and I would definitely
Exactly.
watch that show.
yeah, I was going to say, like, what game would you want to be turned into a TV?
Star Realms,
Good question.
Gloomhaven.
Gloomhaven would be great. Fill
Oh,
that gap of Game of Thrones.
Love Letter. Love Letter's got some lore.
Yeah, some scandal there, exactly.
It'll be
that's
like
your
a
dating
drama.
show. You have to
Yeah,
send
That's a dating
letters.
show. Oh my god.
Yeah,
And
and you
it's
have to
got
judge like the
substance.
penmanship, like the calligraphy, and be like, yes, I would. It's like Married at First Sight, but you only get a letter first.
Oh,
That's-
So many
special.
terrible shows, and this conversation is just making me realise that.
Yeah, Matt Jarvis knows all of them.
Look, there Television's a wonderful thing. I feel like they hit the bottom of the barrel with game shows when there was the one hosted by what's his name, the guy that's on everything, Bradley Walsh, and it was just the 2-penny machines that you get at an arcade, but it's that, I think it's called Tipping Point.
Yes.
But it's just that on a big scale.
Yeah.
And yeah, every idea is just has been taken and turned into
Catchphrase is good.
I want
Taskmaster.
like a game show like Nightmare or like The Crystal Maze or something.
Isn't that? Yeah, I was going to say that's just Fort Boyard or The Crystal Maze. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But then you can do it with a board game thing because it's basically like sort of like an escape room.
Like almost like Haunted House on the Hill.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Betrayal would be a fun one.
That would be great.
Betrayal
yeah.
at House on the Hill as like a nightmare game. Can you imagine how amazing that is? And then one of your contestants that you go in with has to become the traitor, and you have to work against them.
Oh,
I would
Amazing.
game.
I would go on that.
That'd be so good.
I would watch that.
Make this combined Crystal
I mean,
Maze.
it is owned by Hasbro.
Hasbro.
So-
If you're listening to this, Hasbro, which you're probably not, but if you are, please
Hasbro's lawyers, hello.
make a Betrayal at House on the Hill game show like Nightmare or Fort Boyard or Crystal Maze, because that would be amazing. I'd watch the hell out of that.
All right, well, there we go.
This spun off.
It's only a matter of time before the check comes in the post. On a very quick related story, which I threw in here, I knocked a few stories out because we're short on time, but Werewolf is kind of getting a film, sort of, but not really. So there is a film on the way based on a VR game called Werewolves Within, which was published by Ubisoft of Assassin's Creed and whatnot. But Werewolves Within is basically just Werewolf, the like party game, in the there's a bunch of people, one or more of them is a werewolf, and you have to try and work out who it is before they eat all the other villagers. And everyone else has like a specific role in the village, and kind of has a unique ability. And it plays out like that. So Werewolves Within was like this virtual reality version of Werewolf, and now they're turning it into a live action film, which is seeing a cinema release in America, which is kind of wild in itself. It's a horror comedy. It is also called Werewolves Within, and the trailer makes it look like it's kind of got the whole Fargo small town quirk stuff, where it's like here are the kooky residents of this small town called Beaverfield, I think, and then they get snowed in together in a pub or a hotel or something like that, and they have to work out what's killing like members of the party and whether it's someone among them. So it's basically Werewolf the film.
This is like the Hateful Eight mixed with.
Mm.
Now, let me get this right. It's based on a VR game that's based on Werewolf.
Yeah.
So this is like three steps down the line, as it were, in terms of like an adaptation, which to me is already a little bit on the dodgy side in terms of like the quality of this. I'm honestly amazed that it's going to cinemas.
Yeah, so June 25th is when it's out in North America.
Are we going to go watch it, Matt?
A video. I mean, we don't live in America, so no. Like, I'm not flying to the US just to watch this version, particularly right now. It's just like, oh yeah, like, you know what? I decided all the risks were worth it.
Is it
because
coming
I had
out
to
in the
see.
UK?
So it's getting a video on demand release on July the 2nd, so 1 week after the cinema release, which I don't think they've confirmed if that's international, but I believe it's kind of indicated that it will be. So if you're so driven, you can go and find this film. The trailer seems fine. It just seems like one of those, you know, it seems very much like one of those horror comedies where you see the punchlines coming a mile off and it's kind of got the look of a horror film, and then suddenly it's not quite so scary and something else happens. So, but it doesn't seem terrible. I wasn't grimacing my way through it. I was just kind of like, yeah, which given the state of video game and board game adaptations is, you know, better than most.
I mean, have you seen Clue, the film?
No, actually I have not, with Tim Curry.
Yeah, it's good. So actually, the state of tabletop adaptation.
Yeah,
isn't
but
so bad.
by and large, but yeah, I should go and watch Clue.
Although then you've got battleships, so you know.
With
tit for tat, really, isn't it?
I think there is a YouTube supercut of all the times that Rihanna in Battleship says it's a battleship or something along those lines. And it's like a good few minutes long, I think.
Wow.
But yeah, that's our news section. Let's move on over to emails. If you've got an email for the Dicebreaker podcast, you can email us at podcast@dicebreaker.com. I paused for it and it didn't land.
No. I realised what was
Lolies.
happening, so I stopped.
Lolies, would you like to read this one from Jessie, please?
Oh my god, I would love to. Jessie says, what do you think of legacy games? Do you struggle to actually finish them if you've started it, and would you consider streaming one? And if you would, which? I've always wanted to play Betrayal at House on the Hill Legacy, but so doubtful it would get finished. Jessie.
Thanks, Jessie.
Yeah, thank you, Jessie. I've only ever played 2 months of the first Pandemic Legacy. Well, and actually, I guess I've played a bit of Gloomhaven. I really, really like the idea of legacy games. I just haven't really played a huge amount of them because I've always kind of been waiting to get a group together that I know will kind of do it, like see it the whole way through, because I'd hate to, like, I don't know, for somebody to drop out or whatever. I mean, that could happen either way, but I guess I've just kind of been waiting for the right moment. I don't really host games at the moment. Like, I haven't really been hosting games at my own home, and I think I'd like to get to that point and then get a group together that I know will, like, do it regularly. So I really like the idea, and I've played a little bits of some, but I've never actually played one through.
Nicola, have you played any legacy games? What kind of thoughts?
No, I actually haven't played any legacy games. I think, to be honest, I've struggled enough to get a solid group of D&D people together to consistently meet up. Even during this lockdown, we've managed to not always have a free evening for online stuff. So
yeah,
similar to Lolies.
Yeah, I feel like it is like, it's basically that, right? It's like the D&D group thing of like, okay, you need to commit to this like either once a week or however long, but as soon as you involve more than like 3 or 4 people, you're just opening yourself up to like, oh yeah, we'll do it. And then 3-4 weeks down the line, someone can't make it, and then it gets postponed, and then it gets postponed, and then before you know it, like everyone's forgotten what happened and how to play, and it just never comes back around again.
Yeah, I think our biggest downfall is someone's just become a new parent. So,
oh, yeah. That's tricky.
But yeah, you're right.
It is finding that time that's the most difficult thing with board gaming, but like with legacy games particularly, because you are sort of restricted with playing with the same people, and my flatmate and I still haven't finished Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Oh, yeah.
We've had it like coming up to a year and a half. It's just like, yeah, with Pandemic particularly, you are basically, it's not the same game every time, but it's similar mechanics that you're doing, and sometimes you just don't want to play that kind of game like every session, like every week or whatever. And I do enjoy it. I think it's a really cool idea. I think if there were more people I could play with, in terms of there's just a bit more variety there with the group and whatever, I think it'd be a lot easier. Yeah, that's the only legacy game I've played. I have been interested by Betrayal Legacy, because obviously I love Betrayal at House on the Hill. We do actually have a copy in the office, which I was eyeing before the pandemic. And I think if I can get a group together for that, I definitely want to, because, again, it sounds really interesting. I think it's kind of slowed down a bit in terms of, people making legacy games, or at least it feels like that. It feels like there's been a big explosion with, like, Pandemic Legacy, and then there were loads of, legacy versions of games, or at least fresh ones coming out. But I feel like it's slowed down a bit since, recently. I think it's an interesting format that you can do more with, so I'd be up for seeing more. Definitely, because I love narrative experiences. It seems like legacy games are ripe for that sort of thing. Matt
Yeah,
Jarvis.
I think I've played quite a few legacy games at this point. So I've done the 3 pandemics, 2 of which I reviewed. So that was kind of, I think that's the thing as well. Is like, because I was reviewing them, it was very much a case of like, well, I need to play these in their entirety so I can not speak about any spoilers, but know what happens towards the end so I can speak about them all. So quite a few of those I played with my wife, which obviously had the benefit of me saying, hey, I need to play this for work. And also we both really like Pandemic. So it was quite easy to just sit down with both season 2 and season 3 of Pandemic Legacy. We played like a couple of games a night for a week or so. So we blasted through them. And Seafall was another one that I reviewed. So Seafall, yeah, again, like played like quite a lot of my wife and a friend. Betrayal was an interesting one because you need it. I think Seafall also needs more people, but Betrayal, we got quite a big group together, and I think we played for like a block of 5 or 6 hours because I also reviewed that. So I think my experience is not like a typical one in that I had to play them in a very short span of time for review. But also because of that, have a group of friends and my wife who kind of know what I do for a job, and we're kind of like, okay, yeah, like sure, we'll sit down with you for 5 hours and play Betrayal. But Betrayal Legacy is amazing. Yeah, Betrayal Legacy is really fantastic. Like I think it's a really really good game. I think it's easily the best Betrayal game. I think it fixes a lot of issues, even outside of the legacy stuff. Like it tweaks the gameplay and that makes it more fun to begin with. I don't think it's as wild as some of the other legacy games, which is kind of interesting because I think it's because Betrayal is kind of weird and wild to begin with. So like the legacy stuff is more just like a general kind of framework to that. Like it didn't surprise me as much as like Seafall or Pandemic or like I'm trying to think of the most surprising legacy game. I think Seafall has some really weird stuff in it that a lot of people won't see because almost nobody played that game, but you can get it really cheap. And you should play it. Like it's definitely flawed, but I think like I still had an amazing time with it, and it has some of the most interesting legacy stuff. So yeah. I like legacy games.
I want to see a legacy dexterity game. Do it. Can you imagine how wild
that would be? I feel like there must have been one. There must have been.
Wheels
I
would
feel
love
like
that, I reckon.
If any of them, it must be like if any of them were going to do it, it must be like Flick 'em Up. Flick 'em Up Legacy, I feel, would happen. That's in the realm of possibility.
Hit me up. Who owns Flick 'em Up?
Pretzel Games, I think.
Yeah, Pretzel.
They did that crossover with Dead of Winter, so you could do a legacy game.
Yeah, cool.
Is it
call me?
Jenga Legacy? As soon as a brick falls down, you have to burn all the wooden blocks, and you can never put them back in the tower again. Like once you've pulled a block out, you snap it in half, and it's done.
Yeah, something wild like that. Yeah, that'd be cool.
But yeah, thank you, Jesse. I'll read this one from Aranjaful, friend of the site. Sam asks, I've seen a lot of different strategies for storing games, everything from simply putting them on bookshelves to tossing the box and putting them in storage containers.
Nope.
Thoughts? Question mark.
Oh,
Big fat nope.
Lily says no.
I say nope to tossing the box and putting them in storage containers. They're not packed lunch. The box is like half the thing you're paying for.
Yeah, I just stick him in my biscuit tin along with the biscuit.
I understand if you were like, for example, going on holiday or taking to friends or something, like doing that for like a temporary solution. And I get like, you know, not everyone's got a massive amount of space and they might want to own lots of board games but don't have the space, and I totally get that. But
I mean, I will
just buy small games. I don't know.
I will say, like, we have had a discussion where there are many times where the box is far larger than it ever needs to be because they'll make an enormous inlay in there, and then like a third of it will be used to actually hold the pieces, and the rest just to make the box look big because that's how they market it. So I do get the idea of taking those out and putting them in a more manageable like space. Not everyone's got a huge amount of storage space for their board games. I know a lot of people just sell games or like give games away that they don't really use anymore when they've got an enormous collection, or some people just really like having enormous collections. I mean, like, my flatmate's copy of Dead of Winter is currently in a box because they went off to Vietnam for 2 years, and they were like, well, I want to take this with me, but I don't want to take this enormous dang box, so I'm going to stick it in this little felt container, and it fits in there, but I think some of the pieces got lost. So, you know, swings and roundabouts, really, isn't it?
I get it. I get why you would, but I don't think you should.
Morally, Lolies is against it.
I think but for me as well, like board games, they're a bit like, you know how people like having books on their bookshelf. It's just really lovely to display your board games if you can, or just the small ones. Like, when I heard this question, I was like, oh, I wonder if, like, I know you can make furniture with it or something. If you're going to throw the box out anyway.
Yeah. You could.
But,
you could, like, you could even, like, cut it up and, like, put it in a frame if it's a really nice box.
Is that right? You could, like, make it into some scrap frames, but also I don't know how creative people are feeling, but in my imagination, this is really possible. So you could almost like make it into, let's just say, a really basic table, but you could create the side of each box into like a drawer, and then you just pull out the game and the pieces, right? So you never have to unstack the boxes.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, yeah, I'm kind of with you. It's like similar to you saying, Nicola, with books. Like, I think of them as like DVDs. I used to own hundreds of DVDs. I have downsized since, but like I could never put them in, you know, like the wallets people get, where it's just the disc.
Oh, I used to have one of those.
But part of the joy of it is like you have that like art on the front, like it's the whole thing, right? It's like it's why people collect like vinyl records,
unless
because it's like
most of your DVDs are given to you by your dad. You're acquired by less legal means, so the front covers are just printouts that they've got.
Well, that's a different argument.
Yeah, I think you should put those proudly on your bookshelf.
That's why you put the discs in the fluffy pink cat CD case, because it's more tasteful that way.
Yeah.
But that's the. It's
Nothing
like
is more tasteful than a fluffy pink cat CD case.
Yeah.
But I think
when you're 12.
If I had a fluffy pink like board game case, I think it would feel like, or it's like storage tubs, right? It's like it feels a bit sterile.
Yeah, no.
Like it's all part of the fun of getting the game out and like lifting off the lid and like unpacking
box
it all.
farts.
Like it's all part of it. Yeah.
So you would get box farts if you did that.
So I've definitely, with certain things, so like Pandemic is actually one example. With the expansions, there was enough room in the original box to fit like 2 or 3 of the expansions in there. So we put all of them in one of the expansion boxes, but they're all the same size.
Yeah,
and
I
then
get that.
Recycled the other 2. But you're still keeping a box and making the use of it. Yeah. But yeah, like on the most part, like even stuff that leaves a lot of room, I don't think I could bring myself to just like maximize the amount of like storage efficiency I was doing. Like I couldn't just have everything being like vacuum sealed packet and be like, I've saved loads of space. I'd rather kind of have fewer games.
It's like where board games go to die, in a vacuum packed
Yeah.
bag.
Yeah, or like out in a garage somewhere, like plastic within plastic within plastic, and you just forget what's there because you never see the edge of it. It's just a load of cards.
I know it's fairly popular to make like hand make boxes, like when you've got several expansions for your game. I think quite a few people make boxes to hold, you know, everything for that game specifically. So for the core game and all the expansions. I think that's a nice idea, because I guess you're being creative, but you're also like, it is convenient to have all those bits in the same box. Although like a lot of publishers are doing the thing like Fantasy Flight do it, don't they? Where they released inlays with like just nothing in them because they expect
it's like the channel down the middle.
They expect you to buy the expansions. Do it, you idiot! Look, there's all this empty space. Don't you want to fill it? That's the kind of attitude I get from that, at least.
Yeah. But like on the flip side, like if there isn't going to be any expansions, like should we actually expect people to make smaller boxes? Like,
Yeah, I think there's definitely. I mean, I've complained plenty of times about games where it's just empty and it's just like filled with plastic or like empty space, and I hate that. I hate that with a passion, and I do get why people would do it, but I think like I don't know. I struggle with the thought of putting things in like a little Tupperware box and like I don't know, printing out a picture of the box so you know what game is what or something. I don't know. I just I really struggle with that idea, I think. And I think if anything, like at that point, like I know obviously like one email to a publisher is not going to do anything, but if loads of people feel that way, if loads of people email and say make the book smaller, maybe eventually publishers will just make like boxes that are the right size for the game.
Yeah. Or you or you get a large box. You throw all of your DVDs in it, and then you draw on the front cover the pictures from all those DVDs.
Just like a patchwork of...
That's what I did with all my Disney sequels.
Just a box of... That really upsets me. The idea of all those discs just getting scratched to bits, like loose in a box. That's deeply...
They were VHSs as well.
As someone that alphabetized and catalogued like 600 DVDs, that really sits wrong in a part of me.
I feel a bit sick.
There was only one thing in there that was worthwhile anyway. Lion King 2, and that has since seen its final rest.
Yeah, so... probably scratched a bit.
No, it was a VHS. It was a VHS that had been recorded off television.
Oh yeah, those are the days.
And at one point, my aunt who'd recorded it switched channels. Right, okay. I think we're done here.
We'll go down the route of things that only 90s kids will remember. It's like recording.
Look, the Lion King 2 is legitimately good. I will fight anyone who says
Oh no, like the Lion King's fine. But it's like the idea of recording something off the TV is such a strange one now with Netflix and all that.
I remember like taping stuff from the radio, and like you know when you'd listen back to it and then you'd listen to it so many times that you'd then like you'd be singing along and then you'd know like the ad that you accidentally cut into it. I'm imagining like me and watching The Lion King 2 and like talking along with the lines from the film, and then all of a sudden like in the middle of like a really dramatic scene just like an ad for I don't know like a washing powder, and then like back to the film, and she just thinks that's part of the film.
Reciting it back,
yeah.
It was
Yeah, you know that quote from The Lion King 2, right?
Yeah. I can't believe all the product placement for like the Bosch tumble dryer in the middle of The Lion King.
It was an American football game. And I still remember the exact moment that it happened. But I couldn't fast forward it because I was afraid it would chew up the tape, because that happened to me once. It was devastating. R.I.P. Cinderella.
That's genuinely all we have time for in those emails this week. Before we leave you for this week, Alex Lolies, what's coming up on youtube.com/Dicebreaker?
Oh,
I actually know, because this week I'm alone on the video team, so I have to know everything that's going on. So today is Friday. If you look back, there'll be already 3 videos that have been out this week, because I am on it like a machine this week. Tuesday, you will have seen a sponsored Let's Play of Monster Hunter World, the board game, Part 2, where instead of wheels, we've actually got Mian playing, I can never pronounce this, a Negligante?
Negligante.
Negligante monster, so we're fighting a different monster, and you gotta just watch that if you haven't yet, because it's really fun. On Wednesday, I'll have done a stream of Micro Macro, and I will have coloured in as I solve the crimes. So it'll be quite a chill stream.
Yeah.
It will have been quite a chill stream.
Colours and crimes, exactly.
On Thursday, me and myself will have played Root, and it will have been my first game of Root ever, and we're playing with the Riverfolk expansion as well. So I'm like being doubly thrown in. And I will have enjoyed that immensely, I'm sure. And then tomorrow, you should keep an eye out for Burn Bright Part 2, which was also a sponsored Let's Play. So Part 1 will have come out last week. Part 2 available tomorrow at 3 p.m. at BST. And on Sunday, we will have a You've Never Played, and hold on to your hats, peoples. Mian's never played Ticket to Ride, so that'll come out on Sunday. A Let's Play of Ticket to Ride, because Mian needs to be educated real bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're saying this. You don't even like this game.
I don't even like the game. But also, if you don't watch the video, look at the thumb, because I really enjoyed making the thumb.
Yeah, it's good. Yes, we're acting as the two sides of should you play Ticket to Ride, because I love Ticket to Ride and Lolies don't.
I do not like Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, who am I going to listen to?
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're both just trying to sway you.
Which version are you playing?
Yeah, Which version?
Which version are you playing? Is it the original?
Just the original, I think.
Yeah, let's go with vanilla Ticket to Ride. I think
Delicious.
that's the way to go.
I love vanilla.
And you'll love Ticket to Ride.
Well, I'll find it hilarious if I'm different, because then I'm just gonna be like, you two
sit on the fence in between,
toing and froing.
Look, it's not the best game in the world, but I still think it's a good game. And also, the app version that we'll play is particularly good because it goes boop boop after each turn, and it's just a joyful little thing. Where it's
that
just
could
like,
win me
boop,
over,
boop.
you know.
Yeah, it's really good.
Are you playing it on your mobiles or on tabletop?
It'll be on PC, I think.
Yeah,
we'll just play over Steam.
So
yeah. But sometimes my wife and I just go boop boop to each other when talking about Ticket to Ride because we played so much Ticket to Ride together.
That's so cute.
God,
it's the foundation of our relationship. Anyway, over on Dicebreaker.com, we will have up this week, we've got a list, as you listen to this, it's already live, a list of the best board game artwork or box artwork from one Alex Mian.
I am a connoisseur.
You've perused the gallery of board games. We already have up, as of recording this, so it'll still be up by the time you listen. Chase wrote up his thoughts on the new Magic the Gathering set, Strixhaven, and whether it's suitable for beginners. So if you're thinking of jumping in like me, you should go and read that. Jason Coles has also written a piece about Magic the Gathering Arena on mobile, which is very interesting as someone that is playing Magic the Gathering on mobile right now and checking out some of Strixhaven.
Right now? We're in the middle of a podcast, Matt.
Well, you can read and listen if you're listening to this. We've already got up Kieran writing about Master of Nyarlathotep for Call of Cthulhu and why it's a good way of running an RPG campaign that lasts over several years, because that's a long old campaign. We will have Lot Reinhold talking about safety tools in tabletop RPGs. And we will have Mian coming up next week, a little preview ahead. We have a sponsored guide, hopefully up next week, on how to host a great game night.
Because I am the best host.
Once it's safe to do so, of course.
Hostess of the mostess, so...
Indeed.
More like hostess who's the grossest. Full circle, folks.
Yeah,
that's what you call a callback. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Nicola. Where can people find you? Where can they check out what you do?
Oh, thanks, Matt. Yeah, I'm on Instagram. My tag is @NicolaTD Coaching, and my website's super simple. It's just gameplanlifecoaching.com.
Excellent stuff. So people should go and check you out. But yeah, thank you so much for being here and for chatting with us. Thank you, Alex Lolies and Alex Mian, of course, as usual. Oh, see, I tried bundling you into one just to shake it out, and this is why we don't do this.
Yeah.
This is why rigid structures are always good. I've been Matt Jarvis. Thank you for listening to this week's Dicebreaker podcast. We'll be back next Friday with another episode, but until then, stay safe. Look after yourselves.
Stay in school.
Stay in school if you're in school. And until we meet again, have a lovely day. Goodbye.
Bye.